gone. It's like, why would you want to stop? You could just keep drip feeding this cycle, and just, another 6 months, another 20 billion, another few months, another 30 billion here, billion there. Do you notice Trump's rhetoric too? I'm sorry to get off on this tangent, but he was standing in front of the ballroom construction site this week, talking to the press, and he's really in his element because Trump loves building. He loves building more than politics. Trust me. And he's all, look, Eric's done a great job. I think he's put Eric in charge of, head foreman on the bunker. It's not a ballroom; it's a bunker actually. He's got it in his genes. My son, he's got the building gene, like me, like his old man, like me. And he's sitting there. He's so confident. And he said something I've not heard before. This week he said, well, by the time this is done, I'm not really going to be able to use it because I'll be out of office by then. I was like, whoa. Trump said publicly that he's not going to stay in office. What does that mean? That means that he's either happily padded his nest already or he's planning to pad his nest by the time he gets out to such a degree that he really doesn't care because he'll be so rich from that. So I'm just putting that out there because we are seeing unprecedented levels of open corruption where they're so blasé about it, they really don't care, which is, would shock people in normal times.
Yeah. I mean, I remember during Trump's first go around during the campaign, I remember there were rumblings about those who are really studying and trying to figure out how did this happen? How did someone like Donald Trump start running for president? Then there were some who were wondering, given his background and who he is he really just running for president for his own self-interest, his own gain? And if that's true, given his, business background and the way he and his people close to him have conducted business, could this simply be kind of a quid pro quo? Like, I'll help me get rich and I'll help you being the ruling class, have a kind of certain kind of political management happening under his administration. Like, he would run it in a certain way. It would work out very well for them, but it might look a little different than how it usually does under Democrats, of course, but even, standard so-called mainstream Republicans who Trump said he was an outsider from. So, it seems like a lot of the evidence suggests that, Trump has indeed been a big friend to the oligarchs and the warmongers and the bankers and the richest of the world. And he has governed in a particular kind of way, which makes it quite chaotic. And speaking of chaos, part of the so-called indirect talks, negotiations falling apart with Iran, but what comes with that is the potential tightening, where Iran has said they could completely close the Strait of Hormuz. And then there's been talks about the Bab el-Mandeb Strait too. So the chaos part of this is a big element to how Trump supposedly governs, or at least how he governs in service of the diktats of these forces who are really in control. So, Patrick, what do you make of this? Because this seems like where it's going. The United States, for now, Trump is saying, oh, Israel won't bomb Lebanon, so everything is okay. But we know where this war really is. So what do you make of all this?
Yeah, and I think an important distinction is Iran's done very, very, very well to attach Lebanon to negotiations. That's fantastic. That shows you only a country that has some strength, that has firm footing politically, diplomatically, that has a strategy can do that, and Iran's done that. But the U.S. and Israel also they're working overtime to try to compartmentalize and separate those two issues. But ultimately, Israel's number one concern is not that Iran has a nuclear weapon. I think even Israeli intelligence knows they probably don't. They don't have one. They're not developing one, and they know that Iran isn't going to necessarily attack them unless they're attacked first, because Iran's demonstrated that this is their doctrine, how they behave in warfare. So Iran is not the number one concern of Israel. Israel's number one concern is its neighborhood, and it's eliminating any potential challengers in occupied Palestine and South Lebanon, first and foremost. That's number one priority. And also the Greater Israel Project, the expansion of Israel's borders, it's a reality, and that's part of the political mission now for any Israeli administration. They're going to have to take that on board. They have increased their land holdings significantly in the last couple years, and even in the last 2 years specifically, with regards to Syria. That's a massive real estate acquisition, seizure by Israel. And it just happens to be the most strategic piece of real estate in the entire Middle East, which is the Golan Heights and Mount Hermon. So they just feel that they're in the ascendancy, and if they can just somehow maneuver and take South Lebanon under permanent occupation, depopulate it, and continue to put pressure with the United States on any dissenting elements within Lebanon, that they're onto a winner long term. And certainly Netanyahu, that's his legacy. He wants to be seen as the Ben Gurion of this generation. That's what he wants. He wants the airport named after him. Maybe they'll have to rebuild an airport after this next round of hostilities, but he wants to go down history as the godfather of Greater Israel. That's pure and simple. And even if he goes for whatever reason and he's replaced by another bloodthirsty Zionist former terrorist like Naftali Bennett, it's going to be the same. The hard line in Israel will not accept any kind of withdrawal at this point. They feel that they're in the complete ascendancy, that they're realizing their long-term dreams, the expansion of Israel, and eliminating what they call the Palestinian problem or the Arab problem. And they have their own final solution to that, and they're in the process of enacting that. And nobody's going to stop them. No one's going to stop them. Look what they're doing to the city of Tyre. It's unbelievable. Just say leave, third biggest city in Lebanon, and protected UNESCO World Heritage Site. Israel doesn't care. They're like, yeah. So what? You got Egyptian history, Alexander the Great, ancient Greece, Byzantine history, Roman history, New Testament. We don't care. That's get out, and we're gonna vaporize all that, and it's going to become a military base. Fine, who's stopping them? Who's going to stop them besides Hezbollah? Who's going to put up a fight? Maybe Iran, but it's so that's to me an inescapable reality politically in Israel, and so eliminating the threat of Hezbollah is going to mean pushing them all the way to Beirut and permanently. And that looks like the plan right now. So, yeah, the only thing that could stop that is an internal political crisis in Israel, and maybe a fracturing or a collapse of the Israeli military. And Iran could actually play a role in that if things were to escalate. So that does bring us back to your original point about is Iran going to initiate the next round of interactions? Because if they do, then they're setting the pace.
Yep.
And U.S. and Israel are going to react. And how long could the U.S. and Israel withhold that pace? A couple of weeks?
Right.
Certainly, they would prefer to do that in a year's time.
Yeah.
I think not now. So that could be an interesting. That would be a major surprise. I believe that would change the pace of everything, It also might force a desperate hand by the U.S. and the Israelis. There'll be talk of nuclear weapons and so forth. But if they were to set the pace, that would also mean it would be a better bet for China and Russia to take more of an active role in assisting them. That's what that would mean. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's certainly a lot to chew on here, and even just the actions of. And you said it earlier. You said it's a big problem that Trump is not talking to Iran, and not of course Hezbollah is what a joke given how the U.S. and Israel have treated Hezbollah as a non-political entity when it's the most important one in Lebanon by far. But nonetheless. By Iran having made these threats and then Trump having to kind of scramble to manage the narrative. And now there's talks of a postponement of at least the expanded strikes, however truthful or meaningless it may be or not be. This kind of shows the new reality here that, Iran is really, patience is running thin. They're saying that patience has its limits. And they've just stuck their neck out for a suburb in Lebanon, which is very, 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 I think, significant in the sense that they are not banking their political futures and their future in any respect to the United States. And I think this shows the diminishment of the United States big time, because it really is. Israel's in the region. They've been empowered in large part by the United States to behave the way they do. And the U.S. is quickly becoming irrelevant, other than how it boosts Israel in many ways. And here's just one image that came out of Iranian media right before they started hitting Kuwait. This was the sticker they put on the missile until the last American soldier leaves the region. I mean, this is not a short war for any of these forces, not for Iran, not for Hezbollah. It seems like they're pretty clear on this. Any final thoughts as we begin to close this? And we have one question. Do you think Iran will reassess its stance on striking now to save Lebanon? So any thoughts on this question too, if you have any?
Well, if hostilities do resume, then I would say any Israeli targets within South Lebanon are fair game, and for Iran, and also northern Israel as well. That wasn't necessarily a focus previously, I think, of Iran, but if you combine that with Hezbollah's operations, if there's any, let's say, coordination there, or at least they're hitting targets in the same area, that's going to be devastating for the Israelis, at least. So that's going to really hamper their operations. But so yeah, this could be interesting. We'll see. I think Iran has a lot more leverage over the U.S. and Israel than the vice versa at the moment. That's ultimately the big change in things. That's how you have to view it through that lens. Where were they in February 28th, and where are they now on June 1st? That's the big lens. Like in fact, that's the only one that really matters in a war of attrition, is who is the relative gained and who has lost, relatively speaking, in their position, in that power dynamic. And it's pretty clear Iran has gained on pretty much every front, and the U.S. has lost ground on every front. So, that's the main thing to remember.